Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade, the two best shooting guards during the 2000s, creating one of the most exciting rivalries of this era, with each star finding their own success. But what if their careers were completely swapped? Meaning in 1996, Wade is joining the Lakers straight out of high school, and while he'd be coming off the bench to start off his career, when he was playing, he was still making an impact, putting up huge numbers to assist superstar teammate Shaquille O'Neal, who would help the Lakers make it to the playoffs. But with Wade coming off the bench like Kobe, there wouldn't be much difference in Wade's first seasons with the Lakers. But with Kobe being drafted to Miami in 2003, there's sure to be some major changes happening soon enough. But for now, we're just getting started with Wade's Lakers dynasty. Because come the 1999 season, the Flash was finally cracking the starting lineup, and he was taking advantage of the extra playing time right away. We've seen him have success paired with Shaq in real life, and now with him in Bryant's shoes, we'd be seeing that same chemistry, with the star-studded duo feeding off of each other, and Wade's willingness to pass was music to Shaq's ears. Dwayne would average over 8 assists per night, mostly from pick and rolls with O'Neal, and along with his playmaking, his scoring was taking a jump as well, now averaging 23 points per game in just his 3rd season, setting up his team to attempt to make a run in the postseason. And this time around, they were facing Utah in round 1, the same team that swept them last season, but now with the strides taken by Wade, this would be an entirely different series. His athleticism was through the roof, and the old Jeff Hornacek stood no chance of slowing him down, breaking out in this series and truly putting his name on the map with big performance game after game, dazzling fans with spectacular plays to eventually find himself leading his team past round 1. And despite round 2 being against an incredibly talented Kevin Garnett, the rest of the Wolves weren't going to be able to keep up with LA, and Wade and Shaq were leading the Lakers to the conference finals, where they were facing the first-seeded Portland Trail Blazers, where Shaq was having his best performance of this year's playoffs so far, attacking recklessly every possession, even with Portland having Wallace and Sabonis anchoring the paint, because even when Shaq would have difficulty getting a quality look, he could confidently rely on Wade to score whenever needed, resulting in the Lakers going on to defeat this team and earn a trip to the finals 1 year quicker than they did with Bryant. Now with their opponents being the Knicks, who made it to the finals in real life, they had a great chance to also win a ring a year earlier, because while the Knicks were good enough to win the East, they weren't exactly the strongest team we'll be seeing during this sim, led by an aged Patrick Ewing and Latrell Sprewell. Of course, there was no shock that Shaq was mopping the floor with Ewing guarding him. In fact, even as a rookie, Shaq was embarrassing a still prime Patrick in the East. Now here in the finals, this would be a completely one-sided affair between the battle of the centers, but Sprewell was still a star himself, averaging over 25 a night in this series, which gave the Knicks fans hope that they could outlast Shaq. The only problem was a young Dwayne Wade eager for his finals debut. Very similar to his finals debut in real life in 2006, Dwayne was ready to play his absolute best basketball of his life when the expectations were the absolute highest of him. In his finals debut, his averages were skyrocketing to play up to the level of importance of the series, easily finding ways to score, picking away against the Knicks defense to give O'Neal all the help that he needed here, bringing glory back to the city of Los Angeles. Winning a championship here, kicking off the possible Shaq Lakers dynasty a year earlier than our reality, and even though Shaq was winning the finals MVP here, Wade would have plenty of chances soon enough to earn his own. Because much like Kobe and Shaq, now Wade and O'Neal were starting to look like one of the NBA's greatest duos of all time, with Wade completely breaking out now as an all-NBA first-team player and a clear-cut co-star to Shaq, putting up a new career high for points and still looking to improve. Still though, most of the hype and success was surrounding Shaq, who was easily the best player in the sport during this time and would be the main player in the spotlight. This was no issue for Wade though. He was a willing facilitator and used his own skills to empower Shaq. And so this dynamic helped lead the Lakers to 63 wins and confidence going into the playoffs. Just like we saw last year, they were breezing by each round in their conference, playing each opponent merely as a formality, with none of them standing a legitimate chance until they were winning the West yet again. This time facing the Raptors in the finals with their electrifying duo. With both Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady in the Raptors backcourt, Wade would have his hands completely full in his personal matchups. These were two of the only players in the league capable of matching Dwayne's athleticism and shot creating capabilities, meaning this series could spell disaster, at least that is if Shaq wasn't here. For everything Toronto had in the backcourt, they completely lacked in the front, with 6'9" Antonio Davis having the misfortune of guarding Shaq throughout the series series, he was completely making up for the difference with Wade's matchup. For 2 seasons in a row now, Shaq continued to be the #1 spotlight here, leading his team to another championship, defeating the Raptors after 6 games. And just like the tandem of Kobe and Shaq, this was beginning to look like a dynasty in the making, because they wouldn't stop at the repeat, going back to the finals again in 01 to face the Sixers, and this would play out relatively similar to the real-life matchup, winning their 3rd straight. But the one thing that would change was the fact that Dwayne Wade was earning a finals MVP here, stealing one from Shaq, something Kobe never did, which wouldn't be the last thing Kobe's never done, because the next year against the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals, the Lakers were getting it done yet again. They were pulling off a nearly unheard of 4 championships in a row, establishing themselves as one of the basketball's best teams ever. A 4-peat is crazy, and before I get the hate comments saying I'm rigging it for Kobe to lose and I hate Kobe, no, that is not the case. This is just a 2K sim, and maybe Wade and Shaq have better chemistry, I don't know, or it could just be the fact that 2K loves this early 2000s Lakers team and they win like every single year no matter what. Except the next season was at risk of falling short, up against Tim Duncan and the Spurs. The Lakers fell to the Spurs in real life this season, and just the same, they were struggling against San Antonio in this reality. For so many years now, season after season, the Lakers have been steamrolling everything in their path, but this year was different. On the road to begin the series, San Antonio wasn't messing around, quickly making a statement by going up 2 games to none. But you have to imagine that the Lakers have built up some level of resiliency by now, and as such would be retaliating from the sucker punch of the Spurs. Just as fast as San Antonio got out in front here, the Lakers were regaining control of the conference finals, taking 3 games straight for the lead. However, with their season on the line, in Game 6, the Spurs were keeping this one neck to neck, fighting through this entire match and doing whatever it takes to force a Game 7. And with the final moments coming down to the last possessions, there's only one way to find out what would happen. We've got a close one here late in San Antonio. Dwayne Wade is up to 49 points in this game, but the Lakers are still finding themselves down by 3 against the Spurs here late. Shaq setting the screen, getting involved here with a pick and roll. You guys think they're trying to find him? They do when he dunks it over Tim Duncan. Tony Parker now on the other end. His team is up by 1. They're trying to extend the lead. Tim Duncan possibly looking to attack right back at Shaq. A battle of the bigs. Tony Parker had the backdoor cut. Tim Duncan did not find him. Waste the clock. Timmy D driving in on Shaq. Shaq, great defense. 5 seconds left. Not a good possession for San Antonio. Tim Duncan trying to make something out of nothing. Misses Shaq the board. D-Wade now in the fast break. Jackson guarding him, a very good defender here. They get over to Brian Shaw. They're looking for Shaq again. The lob to take the lead. San Antonio with the ball now, down by 1 after just being up 3. They find themselves trailing again. Tony Parker driving it in. The spin, the little tough leader, and the foul. Wow! After hitting the free throw, Parker puts the Spurs back up by 2. Dwayne Wade with the ball now, still looking to get Shaq involved. Tim Duncan with the steal. The Spurs are off to the races. No one there to stop Bowen. His lay's good. What a collapse after being up 1. All of a sudden, you're down 4. Lakers timeout. This is an insane meltdown by Los Angeles. Still, though, 52 seconds. There's enough time to mend your mistakes here. Get back into this game. Dwayne trying to get the inbound. He's not able to get it. To get it to Ori. Big shot rob. Dwayne pump fakes there. I wouldn't have been mad about it. He's been clutch so far, 49 points. Other than the turnover, Dwayne the pump fakes. Getting Steven going nowhere. Dwayne Wade, the jumper. It's off. Wow, that could do it. The Lakers do end up falling short, but Dwayne Wade, 49-31 for Shaq. Both of them had huge games, but San Antonio somehow pulled it off late to force a Game 7. Following the close loss in Game 6, the Lakers would apparently have an all-time collapse because the Spurs were finding momentum after the big win and closing out the series the same way they started it, winning 2 games in a row to finally stop LA in their tracks. And as Wade takes his first defeat in years, our story will begin to venture elsewhere because Kobe Bryant was officially being drafted to Miami after 2 years in college, and his rookie debut was going to be living up to all the hype alongside co-draftee LeBron James, putting up impressive scoring numbers in only his first season of professional action. Otherwise, his first NBA season was relatively uneventful, losing the Rookie of the Year to LeBron James and the team missing the playoffs altogether. But soon enough, he'll have some backup teaming up with a star big man. But for now, Shaq is still playing with the Lakers, who found themselves back in the NBA Finals after a one-year drought, and up against the Nets. The dynamics of the series would be very similar to what we've seen in the past, with no player having any hope of slowing down Shaq. And on top of that, when you take into account the level that Wade is playing at by now, this wouldn't be a difficult matchup. Seeing Dwayne average his highest finals numbers of his career to date, closing in on putting up near triple-double numbers on a nightly basis. Going on to win ring number 5 already in this sim, positioning Dwayne Wade way ahead of pace of Kobe Bryant, but the one bright side for Kobe is things were about to change for the Flash. Because as we alluded to earlier, Shaq was making his transition over to Miami, leaving Wade all by himself now in LA. And despite him averaging some very strong stats over the next 3 seasons straight, the Lakers were still going to be unable to make a single playoff appearance in the strong Western Conference during the stretch, leading to criticism of Wade's abilities to win without Shaq, who was doing great himself out in Miami. Now paired with a new star shooting guard Kobe Bryant, who was picking up from a stellar rookie performance with an even better sophomore year, very quickly establishing great chemistry between the two. And with Shaq in the back end of his career, he was more willing to share his opportunities with Kobe in this reality. But as they make it to the playoffs as the 2nd seed, in round 1, the 7th seeded Wizards with Gilbert Arenas were completely outplaying the Heat. Their biggest downside was a lack of depth to go alongside their 2 stars, and the Wizards were taking advantage of that here, going on to upset Miami in 7 games. Tough one to lose for Miami, but as the 2nd seed in only 2005, it's looking like the future is about to be very, very bright for this new and improved look of Kobe and Shaq. And they were proving themselves to the world, because the next season, even though they would have a very gritty round 1 series, and then in round 2 they would have another matchup that could go either way, eventually they'd be working through their entire conference for a trip to the finals. Of course, the first of Kobe Bryant's career, where they would be facing the San Antonio Spurs, led by Tim Duncan. We've seen in the past just how good the Spurs are, as they've had battles with Shaq during his Lakers days. But surely this time would be different now, with Kobe helping Shaq. Although in reality, history was repeating itself, because in the exact same span of events as we saw with the Lakers-Spurs matchup, the Heat were meeting the same fate, going up 3-2 in the series, only to see Tim Duncan and Tony Parker lead their squad back to the pinnacle of basketball, not only winning Game 6, but also moving on to win Game 7, and in the Heat's hopes of their first franchise championship. And now Kobe would have to continue to wait for a chance to get ring number 1. Luckily for Bryant, his team was making it back to the NBA Finals the next season, this time against the Phoenix Suns, who lacked any finals experience on their roster. This gave the Heat the upper hand in this matchup. After just finishing dueling the Spurs a single season prior, they have built up some finals experience, which was way more than what Kobe needed to get the job done here. He was scoring over 30 points a game to go along with plenty of great stats, shining as the brightest star on the court on his way to winning his first ever championship, defeating the Phoenix Suns to claim their team's first ever franchise ring. And with it, Kobe Bryant was winning his first finals MVP. But as for Shaq, he apparently must have seen something in Phoenix, because the very next year he would be joining the team that he just defeated, once again leaving his star guard alone to fend for themselves. And while Kobe would actually be able to lead his team to the playoffs over the next years, unlike Wade in LA, he'd just be falling short against the Celtics super team come the postseason. Meaning, other than earning MVP in 2009, we wouldn't have much else to talk about for Kobe for a few seasons. And instead we shift our focus back to Wade, who was finally getting some help again as his team traded for Powell. Of course, we all know Kobe and Powell were able to win 2 championships in real life together, and while by no surprise now the Lakers would be once again good enough to be making the NBA playoffs, but they'd also be falling short here, just like Miami, to the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. While LA was finally back in the basketball spotlight after a 3-year playoff drought, they were still far from good enough to defeat a team this good, losing to Boston in 5 games, which ultimately could be spelling the start of the end. Because for Wade, age was catching up to him much faster than it did for Kobe in real life, and his opponents were taking advantage of his recent decline, knocking him out of the playoffs in both 2009 and 2010. Age is catching up to Dwayne Wade very quickly, which is unfortunate. One of my favorite players of all time. The fact that he couldn't win one between 08 to 2010 and Kobe won 2, I'm not sure how much more he's going to be able to accomplish the rest of his career. Which was completely correct, because while over the next 6 seasons, Wade was still putting up some respectable numbers and mentoring the young guys, he wouldn't be getting anywhere close to any additional titles or major accolades. Eventually closing out his career in 2016 with more achievements than he had in real life, and doing a great job of matching Kobe, who, speaking of Kobe, is only getting started in his journey in the NBA. Because Miami was forming one of the biggest super teams in the history of the league. adding LeBron James and Chris Bosh to the mix, meaning now the Heat had the two best players in all of basketball on the same roster. And it was Kobe who was benefiting the most, in part thanks to LeBron's exceptional playmaking abilities, leading to Bryant averaging well over 30 points per game this season, and the deserved praise would follow. Monster season for Kobe in his debut with LeBron James and Chris Bosh. I will tell you one thing, Dwayne Wade was not putting up numbers like this in 2011 with LeBron and Bosh. This could be a scary trio. And as we watched this Heat team ravage through every opponent in the East, it was abundantly clear just how good this roster was. Their only weakness being their depth was quickly overshadowed by the fact that LeBron and Kobe together was simply unstoppable. And by no surprise, they would be finals bound, where the same opponent they faced in real life was waiting. But this time around with Kobe Bryant, the results would turn out vastly different, with him taking over much of the scoring load here, and instead of losing his 6, they'd be going on to win this series in 5, earning LeBron his first ring and Kobe his second. And in fact, the entire Heatles era would be different, because they weren't only winning a championship here, but it was about to be a clean sweep of the league the entire time this tandem was together, winning finals after finals as the undisputed, clear as day best team in basketball, closing out their time together in a 4-peat, earning Kobe his 5th ring in this sim before LeBron leaves for Cleveland, at which point Bryant would still have some very strong seasons ahead of him, even earning a 3rd MVP in 2015 immediately after LeBron's departure, and also heading out for a short 1-year trial in Chicago that wouldn't amount to anything notable, all until 2018, where he was reuniting with LeBron and the Cavaliers, where they'd still get smoked by the Warriors. They won 1 instead of getting swept. Golden State is just way too good. And from here, Kobe would go back to Miami for his final year, closing out a very successful career in Wade's shoes. And if you want to see more Kobe, consider clicking this video next.